All right, let's go ahead and get started, Dr. Stevens.
All right, guys. Well, as he just said, I'm Dr. Stevens. Welcome for everybody that's new to it, and for some people returning, we're glad to have you back for it. Today's one that's really exciting. I know we talked a bit about it last night on Facebook for anybody that did see it, but I do ask that anything that you get from this, pass it along, or if you know of somebody who you think could benefit from the information, let us know. We'd love to be able to share some of the content with them. We just want to make sure that we're trying to keep our communities nice and healthy. And the best way that we can meet people right now is through word of mouth and doing these. So let's make sure that we can all keep eating well, moving well, thinking well. And I'm going to pass it to Dr. Travis so he can explain a little bit further detail on that.
Hey guys, Dr. Travis here, broadcasting from Utopia. That's the corner of Mockingbird and Abrams, kind of corner of the street from my office. But yeah, we do this every week to teach you guys how to eat well, move well, think well, and the peer-reviewed research behind different things, so you actually know the facts of why we do what we do and how to keep us healthy, right? Because our ultimate goal is to keep us in a state of blanking on it. What's my word I'm looking for here, Dr.
Homeostasis.
Homeostasis, there it is, right? And to do that process, we have to eat well, move well, and think well. And then that's why we're here, guys. So, Dr. Chris, why don't you teach a little something?
All right, sounds good. Hey, everybody. I'm Dr. Phillips. I kind of run the operations for Texas Chiro Health. We have two clinics, one in McKinney and one in Lakewood. I'm sure you're familiar with. Today, we're going to be talking about vitamin D. Give me just a second to share my screen with you here so you can see the presentation. Awesome. Okay, Brian? Yeah? Okay. We do this 12 Minutes to Health every Tuesday on Facebook Live through our Facebook page, and then we also do this lunchtime call every Wednesdays with a different topic. I know a lot of you jump on these pretty regularly to get the different information on how to stay and live healthy. So if you ever miss one of these and you need to find it, you can always find it on our YouTube channel, which is just Texas Chiro on YouTube. So if you go look for it there, you can find any of the topics we've covered in the past, and all of our future ones will be up there as well. So one of the things that we try to do, that we kind of pride ourselves on, that's kind of a passion of ours, is basing every recommendation that we make in our offices and our care platform off of the peer-reviewed randomized controlled research right now. This is important because a lot of doctors, a lot of healthcare professionals, a lot of people in general, especially right now with everything that's going on with COVID-19 and all, are saying, well, the research says. Nobody's really quoting in any specific research, and they're just kind of using it to get your attention. And I don't want it to be just an attention grabber. I want it to be an unbiased opinion of what the research actually says on how to stay healthy. So that is our promise to you, that we will always give you the unbiased research. And in a situation where it's not a randomized controlled trial or a review of those randomized controlled trials, we'll always let you know that. And in fact, I'm going to dive into one later in the presentation here in just a few minutes. But let's go ahead and get started with today's study. Today's study was done by Cannell et al. And it's entitled Epidemic Influenza and Vitamin D. So basically it's looking at how do your vitamin D levels affect the prevalence and the severity of the flu. So as always, vitamin D is not, it's for us, it's one of those things that is essential. All right. For the human being, it's essential that you have vitamin D in your diet. And it's not something that is designed to be treated like a medicine or to fix a certain situation. It's something like exercise, like positive thought, like all of our vitamins and nutrients that we need in sufficient levels in our body to be healthy. And when we're healthy and we have these things in sufficient levels, we are much better. Our immune systems are much stronger. We defend against viruses, bacteria, funguses, yeast, all that type of stuff, and we live a healthier lifestyle. So it's important to remember that we're shooting for sufficiency here with vitamin D, not as an emergency type thing. However, vitamin D does work in emergency situations too, which you'll see. But let's get into a little bit of how vitamin D is made in our bodies, because we do actually make it, and the supplementation of it. So when you look at vitamin D, pretty much everybody understands at this point that vitamin D comes from sunlight. being out in the sun and the reaction that happens when it hits your skin. And that reaction looks like this. So the sunlight hits your skin, and inside of our skin, inside of our bodies, we have what is called hydroxycholesterol. Okay, so the sunlight activates the hydroxycholesterol, changing it to vitamin D. That vitamin D is then transported to the liver where it goes through a process and it becomes 25 hydroxy vitamin D, which is what is measured in our blood when blood work is done and they take our vitamin D levels. From the liver, as it goes through the blood, it goes to every single cell in our body. That's how important vitamin D is. There's not a cell in our body that doesn't use it. So there's not a system, there's your immune system. I mean, everything uses vitamin D in our body in different ways because it's more of a hormone than a vitamin actually, because of how it controls different things, which we'll see here. But let's look at its effect on the immune system and why it's so effective against the flu and preventing disease and sickness and keeping people healthy. So we're going to focus on a few cells of the immune system. The first one is the macrophage. Okay, so the macrophage is responsible for going out and kind of engulfing viruses, bacteria, yeasts, funguses, and getting rid of them, taking them out of the body. It's part of our innate immune system, which is our frontline defense. We also have an adaptive immune system, which is kind of like the memory immune system where we build immunity, but our innate immune system goes out and attacks things on the front and shuts things down. So what happens with macrophages is it sends out cytokines, right? And cytokines are the inflammatory cells. So they go out and create inflammation. So the macrophage, they kind of signal the macrophage to come here, take this virus, get it out of here. The problem with the cytokines, I'm sure all of you have heard about the cytokine storm that happens, that is the deadly part of COVID-19 for the 0.01% that it's actually killing. The cytokine storm is those cytokines being unregulated. And when we look at why they're not being regulated, why is nothing down-regulating the immune system, what you find is this is vitamin D's responsibility. And when you don't have enough vitamin D, you cannot up-regulate or down-regulate your immune system. Therefore, we're running into a situation where it's a new virus to our body, so it's creating a ton of inflammation. And when there's no vitamin D, it's going out of control. What we see with the flu in this study is that when we do have enough vitamin D, the immune system is upregulated and downregulated correctly, and we're able to defeat the flu depending on our vitamin D levels. So it's very important to have vitamin D for these cells. Another important cells are antimicrobial peptides. So the antimicrobial peptides are found inside of white blood cells, and they're released by white blood cells, which are all part of the immune system. And they go out and do essentially the same thing as the macrophages. They go out and neutralize and kill cells that are toxic and foreign to our body. So the study went on to say that perhaps most importantly about these, 3 independent research groups have shown that vitamin D dramatically stimulates genetic expression of antimicrobial peptides in human monocytes, neutrophils, and other human cell lines. So what that's saying is if a virus comes in, right, and these AMPs have been shown to completely shut down the flu virus when they're in the appropriate amount and they're activated. And that's what this quote right here is saying. When we have the right levels of vitamin D, we actually activate these AMPs, and they go out and they're antimicrobial. They shut down bacteria, they shut down, they're antiviral, and they also have been shown in multiple studies, and these 3 studies specifically, to shut down the flu virus as it comes in contact with it. So it's very important for these cells as well, and all of our frontline and backline defenses, that we have appropriate levels of vitamin D to help modulate and control our immune system and regulate what's going on. So one of the biggest questions we always get in the clinics is, what is the best source of vitamin D and how much do I take? So we'll start with the best source. The best source for vitamin D that is naturally occurring is found in cod liver oil. All right, and that's why in our clinics, all of our patients take our fish oil, which is combined with a cod liver oil. So it has your vitamin A, your vitamin D, and the omega-3s. It's the only supplement in the world that has both of these combined, and it has huge benefits. Because when you look at vitamin A and vitamin D, which naturally occur in cod liver oil in the correct ratio, when that's in our body in the correct ratio, they share receptors on all these cells we were just talking about. So if vitamin A is present in the right ratio to vitamin D, it actually causes vitamin D to have 3 times the effect. It will bind to the cells at 3 times the amount, and you get that much more out of it when you're looking at control of the immune system. So vitamin A is very important, as well as the omega-3s, which you've heard me talk about in the past if you've been on here, and just how that forms the cells and the cell membranes and things. So you want to try to get it in cod liver oil if you can. Outside of that, you want to just make sure that it's a natural source, usually in liquid form is best, and you want to make sure that it is in a olive oil medium. You don't want it in a canola oil or something like that because it becomes inflammatory at that point. So vitamin D, get it from cod liver oil, very important, and make sure that you're taking it regularly. Now, how much do we take? This is a tricky question because we're all different, right? And some have more sun exposure, some have less, some live closer to the equator, some further away. So it's kind of all over the place, but general rules of thumb, what they found in this one study, or actually in this study, this review of studies, is that 4,000 IUs per day for more than 6 months to middle-aged Canadian outpatients resulted in levels at 44 nanograms per milliliter and produced no side effects other than an improved mood. So when we look at that, 4,000 IUs is kind of the average for those around the age of 0 to 25, right? And smaller children will need less, but if you start looking at adults up to age 25, it's about 4,000 IUs. However, if you have darker skin and you get sunlight, you're going to get less vitamin D than someone with lighter skin. And if you're overweight, the higher your body fat percentage, the less that you convert vitamin D from sunlight. So you may need to supplement a little bit more there. The study also went on to say that elderly people produce about 1/4 of the vitamin D of that person that's age 20 that gets the same sun exposure. So as we age, we make less vitamin D. Being in my mid-30s, I take about 5,000 IUs a day. So it's important that you kind of gauge those things. But if you're taking between 4,000 and 5,000 IUs per day, you're going to start to build that up. And you want to get to that 50 nanogram per milliliter mark or more. Okay, so and that can be seen through blood work and things like that. But you want to keep the vitamin D at that level to be sufficient. Because if you're not sufficient in it, you're deficient, and your immune system's going to suffer along with a lot of other systems. Because vitamin D is so important in pain control, in weight loss, in anti-aging. There's just so much that vitamin D does for our cells that it's really incredible. I want to spend just a minute and talk about vitamin D and its association with COVID-19 right now. I think it's very important because of the situation that we're in and because of the inaccurate data, lack of knowledge, and fear that's out there when it comes to COVID-19 right now. So looking at COVID-19, now I will say this study is one of those, it's not a randomized controlled trial, right? It's just too early to be able to do that. But I included it. It's an observational study, so that they're strictly observing, correlations, and correlation doesn't equal causation, and I understand that. But this is the 5th study on COVID-19 this year that has come out exactly the same when they're looking at these observations, showing these. What they did is they took people admitted to the hospital for COVID-19, and they do blood work and everything on them naturally. So they looked at the vitamin D levels. They noticed that over 80% of hospital admissions had severely deficient vitamin D levels when it came to COVID-19. When you look at those that had to go into the ICU, that number jumps up to almost 96% had severely deficient vitamin D levels. And to me, that makes sense because what lands you in the ICU is that cytokine storm that we talked about. That cytokine storm is directly controlled in our immune system by vitamin D. Now, like I said, that's me as a physician connecting dots, right? That is not what the peer-reviewed randomized controlled research says yet. We just won't know for years, really, what the exact cause and the exact treatments and where we could have done better and where we could have done worse because we need more data. And outside of that, we need accurate data, which is up in the air if we're getting, accurate data based off of false negatives and associated deaths and all the stuff that goes into it, the socioeconomic differences, and obesity. There's so much that goes into it that it's going to take us years. But there are huge correlations and links between vitamin D deficiency right now and our risk of COVID-19. They also show that the lower your vitamin D, the longer you have to deal with COVID-19, and also the higher the death rate in these observational studies. So I think it's hugely important that you get vitamin D. I suggest getting vitamin A with it because of the research showing 3 times the potency of vitamin D. And there's no side effects to it. It's cheap, there's no side effects, and the chances of it preventing a virus, which we know it to do, are very, very high. And the side effects are a better mood, maybe some weight loss and less pain. So to me, it's a no-brainer, and I think it's criminal that we're not doing more research on it and getting the answers behind it. But like I said, that'll be determined in a few years, and hopefully it is a vitamin D thing, and we can get more vitamin D into our system. So I'm going to let Dr. Stevens talk to you about how to contact us if you do want some of the product with the vitamin D in it. If you have something going on, Dr. Stevens, you can kind of tell them a little bit about that.
Yeah, absolutely. So we do have 2 offices. Our phone numbers are right there. Dr. Travis is down in Lakewood. I myself am up in McKinney. You can give us a call. We'll put our emails down in the chat box as well. You can send emails if you've got questions that pop up later. But we also want to be here to make sure everybody is staying healthy. And one of the ways we do that is we go through a full exam. Now you can see it right there. We work with different charities. We're working with Big Brothers Big Sisters here through pretty much the end of the week, a couple more days. But then we'll be switching over to Wounded Warriors. That first exam, it's $39, covers your x-rays, your consultation, your exam, functional movement screen, pretty much everything it takes to see where that baseline is and then what we can do to help. So from there, we can then sit down and help you reach any of those goals that you might have. Now, if y'all have any questions, please ask them. We can certainly spend some time answering them right here. I don't see too many on the chat box. You can type them in. Dr. Travis, you have any while you're out there?
All right, does anybody have any questions? Doesn't necessarily have to be about vitamin D. We're an open book, so. Facebook Live here. Any questions off of that? I don't know if that pops up. Is everyone being shy today? And again, did you say that you cannot take too much vitamin D as a question?
There's been a lot of studies where they've megadosed vitamin D. I'm talking about 4,000 to 5,000 IUs. They're talking about 50 to 150,000, and they've done it for a couple of months, and there haven't been side effects from it, right, of overdosing. We always good because it's a fat soluble vitamin, but what we found out is it's actually more of a hormone than it is a vitamin. So you would have to take 40 to 50,000 IUs for a couple of years in order to overdose on it. So you've really got to try hard to have an overdose of vitamin D because of how much our body does use it. And that's the reason that, most people, it's endemic across the world that we have low vitamin D levels. And if you look at the United States in general, we're being hit as hard as we are by this virus because of our lack of health. We have terrible vitamin D levels. We don't move enough. We all stay inside too much. And we're one of the unhealthiest nations in the world. It's one of the reasons we do these calls and try to help everyone understand how important it is to take care of yourself and how simple it can be as well. So maybe not always easy, but it is simple if you can eat well, move well, and think well and put those 3 together. So yeah, don't be afraid of overdosing on it. And yeah, that basically answers it. I think I saw another question there.
It says, what foods do you recommend that can also help with the vitamin D intake?
Yeah, absolutely. There's your fatty fish are going to be kind of the best source. It's good to eat salmon, tuna, things like that. You'll get a bunch. Mushrooms have a lot of vitamin D in them. They're hit with UV light, so you get that UVB ray that changes the cholesterol into the vitamin D, excuse me. And then they do fortify milk with vitamin D. However, milk can be very inflammatory and kind of reverse the effects of vitamin D. And you'd have to drink like 8 gallons a week of straight fortified vitamin D milk to get those kind of levels. So the best thing is just get outside, 20, 30 minutes a day with as much skin exposed as possible, no sunscreen. If you're going to burn in that amount of time, then do it in increments or whatever it is. but the sunscreen actually blocks it. If you're through a window, that blocks the UVB ray. It can't get through our clothes. So honestly, the best way, and the reason I spend a ton of time in the sun, but I still supplement at 4,000 to 5,000 IUs a day, just because it is the easiest, most cost-effective way to do it.
And being sufficient in your omega-3 intake helps with the cholesterol that turns into our vitamin D.
Absolutely. You got to have good fats for sure. I see. Is D3 the best to take? Yes, actually D3 is the only one that will convert in your body. For some reason, I constantly see patients come in with a prescription for D2, but it doesn't go down the same chemical pathway. It'll raise your blood levels, but it doesn't do the same thing in the cell. So it has to be vitamin D3. Yes, I should have mentioned that earlier. Thank you for asking that.
Does anybody else have any questions we got? All right, Miss Amber, if you want to like pop on and tell people a little bit about what you guys do at Utopia, just so for the people that are unaware with my slight intro, and then get to know you a little bit more.
All right, can you hear me okay?
Yeah.
Awesome. Like Dr. Travis said, we offer meal prep, and we offer a fitness solution in the form of resistance training. So, and we're big water pushers here. So the idea is to achieve optimal health in an easily obtained manner. So we make it easy to do that by offering meal prep solutions that can help you learn to eat intuitively and a well-balanced diet with appropriate calories. And our dietitian, Dr. Carol Ireton Jones, has helped our chef balance our meals in a way that they are that all the macros are balanced, the vitamins are balanced, and then it's up to us at the studio to help you find the appropriate calorie levels to give you the right amount of energy to maintain your muscle and give you energy to perform throughout the day consistently for your life. You combine that with strength training to give you good muscle composition, and that helps you balance your body out. Sorry, my tongues are tied. But so we want you to have a balanced body. We want you to be strong, to have healthy joints and lots of energy to be able to be active in your normal daily life. And then we don't want you to have to spend 6 hours a week in the gym, or unless that's your thing. But you don't have to do that, and we want everybody to know that you don't have to do that. So we encourage everybody to give us a try. And there's 5 locations in the Metroplex. So I'm sorry, 4 locations in the Metroplex and growing. So check us out at utopiaff.com.
Awesome. So if you have any extra questions for Amber, I can send them that way because y'all have our information. You can, they have a Facebook. We're doing Facebook Live right now. If there's anybody on the Zoom call and then you guys on the Facebook call, make sure you get all your information over to Amber. You can put it in the group text here because you're going to go into a drawing for a few prizes as a reward for listening to this awesome information. And so make sure we get that over so you get your chance to win. So there's not too many of you guys, so your chances are even better. So thank you all for joining. Dr. Stevens, Dr. Chris, y'all got anything else?
I think just thank you guys. And if you need anything, reach out to us. Dr. Brian, his email is there. I saw in the comments, I think Dr. Travis is there too. So reach out to us, call those numbers, anything we can do to help, let us know. And if you need any of this research, again, our YouTube channel, or just stop by the office. We have all the research articles there on hand.
Yeah, be more than happy to get you set up with your own copy of it. Well, thank you all so much, guys.
Thanks, guys.